It's not been quite 2 weeks since I've been home from Iceland, and I've been putting together information for this video for about the last week and a half. I've also been debating in my mind how I've wanted to present this information to you all, and I decided that I'm going to just do what I usually do. I'm going to be authentic and be transparent with you all. And I know that this content is probably going to piss off a few people, probably, but I'm always transparent. I'm always authentic with you all. I want to talk about how I did this trip and why I did this trip this way. And I did spend quite a bit of cash on this trip. So I want to be real with you and talk to you about it. And in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I'm presenting this information because there are people that travel that are not in the credit card game. They're not in the points and miles game, right? There are people out there that just have cash to spend and they're going to spend it and they don't care about credit cards and they don't care about points and they're just going to take the trip. And so hopefully this kind of content benefits those folks the most so that they can see, kind of get an idea of how much it costs, relative to, how long you're going to be there for, et cetera, to get a feel for what it's going to cost them to go. But also, too, I know that a lot of you are interested in this content anyway. So uh, that's why I'm going to present it. And so I hope it helps many people out. And like I said, we're going to dive into this and talk about the numbers, talk about why I did it the way I did it. And if you want more information from me regarding this, we can talk about it in the comment section below because I'm going to try to be as brief as I can with this content. So, but it's going to be a little bit longer of a video. So let's dive in. So I was going to be in Iceland in October of last year, right? You all saw this video right here where I had to cancel the trip. And so when I canceled it, I was able to change flights and able to change hotel reservations and all that. And I was going to go in the middle of January of this year. Well, that ended up not working out either. So what happened is that the Iceland Air was changing my flight to like 3 days later than what I was going to be there for, and so it just didn't work out. So I ended up using what I had already paid somewhat to go to Iceland a couple weeks ago. And this is a trip that I took a couple weeks ago that I was going to be there anyway, regardless of if I had gone in October or if I had been there in January. I was going to be there anyway at the end of April. So this was going to happen regardless. But it just so happened that I could use most of the money that I used for booking originally for the rebooking for this trip. So let's talk about what I did. So as you know, in this video right here, I found a redemption using Flying Blue Miles to book Delta One from JFK to Keflavik or Reykjavik's airport for that Delta One flight. So I spent like 53,000 Flying Blue Miles and like 30 some dollars in cash. And I'll try to show that on the screen here. And as I'm going here, I'm referring to notes just off to my side here, so I'm not looking at the camera. I'm also going to try to include as many screenshots as I can as well, so you all can sort of follow along. But I apologize for not looking at the screen, the camera the entire time. So anyway, that's how I booked part of the flight. Now, how did I get from Kansas City to JFK? Well, I booked cash for that flight. So I flew first class from Kansas City to JFK. I have like a $500 e-cert with Delta. So I used $493.48 of that e-cert to book the first class flight from Kansas City to JFK. So it's an e-cert, but I'm counting that as cash anyway because it came from a cash booking originally. So, but that's how I got from Kansas City to JFK. Now, how did I get home? Well, that was via Iceland Air. And how that happened was when my flight was canceled back in April and they were going to try to rebook me like 3 days later. And I'm like, I can't do that. I can't take extra days just to stay here, just so I can get home. And that would be the only option pretty much, because in January in Iceland, almost only Iceland Air is flying there. So I was kind of stuck. So they issued me a $450 e-credit for for rebooking and then eventually canceling because I couldn't take the flight. So I used that uh, $450 credit, and the rest of it was cash. And I believe that was like 350 some dollars. I don't have it right up here on the screen with me here, but I'll include it on the screenshot here. But it was an additional like 350 to fly from Keflavik Airport to Boston. So a little bit more cash out of pocket, but I was okay with that. And I talked about it in this video right here that I did just recently. So all in all, my cash out of pocket for the flights was like $1,308.69 between all the flights. And that was cash out of pocket. And then of course the 53,000 flying blue miles. Now the hotel. So I stayed at the same hotel that I stayed at in 2023, which is the Center Hotels Klopp property in downtown Reykjavik. I booked that property initially back in October. I was booking it through the city travel portal, and I was utilizing the $100 hotel credit for booking through the city portal on my Strata Premier card. And so my days there was going to total 747.22, including after the fact, after the credit of $100. So I booked it because I was using that card and using uh, that credit. I wasn't going to use points for that because Center Hotels is not part of any kind of an alliance at all. There's no transfer partners to to Center Hotels. You can book them through portals only if you're going to use points. And I did not want to use points because I have plans for those points. So I deferred to pay cash for what ended up being 6 nights there. I actually ended up needing to add another night to the stay. And I actually used my US Bank Altitude Reserve card because at the time I had just gotten the US Bank Altitude Reserve card, and I had not used any of the $325 dining and or travel credit. I had not used all of it yet. So I ended up having to book another night, which cost me $82.32. And as you can see here, I got that credit back, room charge back of $82.32 on the US bar. So that's how I paid for the hotel. That's why I paid the way I did. Um, so now comes transportation. So with Amex, I paid a total of $75.55. And I'll put screenshots up here. And with Amex, then transportation charges that came from the my Ubers to and from the airport here in Kansas City, because I always take Uber. I do not park at the airport. I keep my vehicle garaged here at home. And after all, the trip started at the end of April. The trip ended at the beginning of May. So I was able to use $40 in Uber credits spread over 3 cards, which are my 2 platinums and my gold card with Amex. And then I also got the $10 ride share credit for both April and May because of the ride share credit on the Delta Platinum card that I just got a few days ago. So that's how I paid for trips to and from the airport. And that's what it cost me with the Amex portion of it, which was $75.55. Now, the rest of the transportation costs that I had was $117.09. And those charges were all put on the US bar. And I put them on the US bar because the portal, so I booked a bus from the airport in Keflavik to Reykjavik. I did not rent a car this time. I took a bus. Most everything I was able to do in Reykjavik was all on foot. So I walked a lot, got my steps in. So I booked the bus from to and from the airport. There was a discount through the hotel to do that. And so I just booked it all on the US bar, and I'll put the charges up on the screen here too, so you can see what those were. But I put those charges on the US bar. The other charges on the US bar were 2 cab rides. I actually went to a charity dinner on Thursday night there, and that evening it was raining and I didn't really feel like walking or trying to ride a scooter to and from, so I basically booked a cab, and here's the cab charges are right here, as you can see. So my total charges on US bar again were 117.09. My total transportation from the Ubers here and from the bus and the cabs in Reykjavik, total transportation costs were 192.64. Now I'm going to go to dining next. So dining, the dining total was 145.56 over all the cards I used. So basically, I ate out at different restaurants a few times. During Fan Fest though, I mostly ate at the Harper Concert Hall because they had a basically full service bar and restaurant on the property. So it was pretty convenient to eat there. But I did eat off site or around the city 5 or 6 times. Um, so my charges were as follows. Like I said, it was spread over 3 cards. I put 22.74 on my MX Gold card. I only used the MX Gold card a few times, as you can see here, because MX is not accepted everywhere in Iceland. So I was only able to use it 3 times, as you can see. Uh, Next was the US bar. I put $49.65 on it. And that was over a handful of restaurants. I'll try to put it up on the screen here as well so you can see. But I put most of my restaurant dining on the Bilt card, as I had my Bilt card on me as well. And so I that was $73.17 that I put on the Bilt card. Now, whether or not some of that, all that codes is restaurant, it's kind of weird because a few places, and I'll try to put this on the screen here, but a few places that I thought would code as restaurant didn't. Then a few that coded as restaurant or that I didn't think would actually did. So um, I guess for me, like part of it was experimenting, like using the different cards to see what would code as what, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And I'm not going to fret about missing out on one extra point over 70 some dollars. Like I don't that it just doesn't matter. It's minute. It's minutia. This was just kind of me experimenting with what would do what while I'm there. It's called learning. So again, I spent 145.56 total over the 3 cards that I used. Uh, Next is going to be, I did technically go to a grocery store a couple of times. There's a grocery store there called Bonus, and I actually went there twice. I went there 2 times to get vitamin water. Like vitamin water there in Iceland is freaking amazing. I spent a total of $10.34. I actually ended up using my Bilt card, and the reason why is because their mobile wallet wasn't working on their system the couple of days that I went there. So I ended up just having to use a physical card, and I didn't have my US bar on me. So I just pulled out the Bilt card and tapped to pay instead. So yeah, I put $10.34 on my Bilt card for groceries, which ended up being a couple vitamin waters. So there's those charges. Now, the last thing that I think I'm going to cover is duty free. So on the way back at the airport, I stopped at duty free and I got myself 6 or 7 chocolate candy bars from the airport because Icelandic chocolate is like, it's just amazing. So I stocked up on candy bars, bought them at duty free, ended up being a total of $21.33. I put that on the US bar because it was, they had tap to pay. It was like, okay, I'm just going to use US bar. It's easy, done. Apple Pay, done. So I spent, $21.33 there. So the grand total for this trip, I used 53,000 flying Blue Miles for the Delta One flight from JFK to Keflavik. The rest of it was cash. I spent a total of $2,503.59 in cash total. And again, the reasons for doing this were I had my Delta flights covered, but everything else is kind of unique with Iceland. Iceland Air, there's no Alaska doesn't allow you, or there's no Iceland Air does not allow you to book premium economy with Alaska miles. It's only economy. Uh, I don't know that if that's possible with Southwest and Iceland. I don't think that they're fully integrated yet. So I didn't look and I don't have any Southwest miles. It doesn't matter. So the option to book was cash. I could have used points as well. I decided not to because my points are being reserved for some more aspirational travel that I have planned in the next year or two. So that's why I paid cash for the flights. The hotel, again, Center Hotels, they're not part of any alliance. They're not part of any program. You could only book with points through a portal. That's it. It's either that or cash. So, and again, I decided to use cash because I could, and because those points are being reserved for other things. So that's why I pay cash. And of course, I mean, dining, you know, duty free, transportation, all that stuff. All that stuff was cash that you're gonna have to use to eat. So there's that. Um, One final charge I forgot to include was on the US bar. I actually did over a few days. I did actually donate money to a charity. So CCP Games, the maker of EVE Online, they do work with charities in town, and they usually do work with the Children's Hospital of Reykjavik. And so I did donate like $78 to charity is what it ended up being total. So I did put that on US bar as well. That was also through Apple Wallet. So, um, but anyway, it was a mostly cash trip, and for the reasons I explained, but also too, not only to reserve my points for more aspirational travel, but I'm also in a spot where I can afford to spend a little bit of cash on trips when I'm going to just take the trip because life's too short. And if you can do it, do it. So anyway, I've rambled on long enough. Let's talk about this in the comment section below. I'm really curious to hear what you'll have to say about it. Like I said, I know it's going to be polarizing in the points and miles community side of things where everything's free travel and not spend a dime and all that stuff. I've not been able to do that yet. So, but I know it's probably going to ruffle some feathers, but I'm hoping that people gain some insight into why I did what I did. And at least if the math, proves to be beneficial to some people, then even better. But again, I'm always transparent with you guys. I'm always authentic. So that's it. Let's talk about it. Also, too, I am making the climb to 1,000 subscribers. If you've not already done so and you enjoyed this video, if you could please click the subscribe button. It helps get my channel visible to more people just like yourself. It's also free, and I thank you ahead of time for doing so. Now, if you all would please do me a big favor and be good to each other and respect each other, okay? And until next time, Bye for now.